Tang Yuga's presence exuded an aura of death as she coldly declared that none of them would leave that place alive. In response to her threat, Huihui summoned his sword, which shimmered with a pink glow, and launched a series of quick attacks at her. However, she effortlessly raised a defensive barrier, shining with various colors, that absorbed the onslaught with ease. Xuanyu, as he observed the scene unfold, found himself pondering the true nature of her abilities, how she managed to wield attacks of different elements with such mastery. Yuge strengthened her magical barrier, making it nearly invincible. On the other hand, Huihui struggled to stay upright against the fierce winds. While Xuanyu worried that the bright energy around them might be caused by combining different elements, he feared that, while it might not directly harm their systems, it could weaken the very essence of Huihui's soul. As the tension mounted, Menqin stepped up and unleashed her strong interference skill, and a powerful wave of energy surged towards Yuga. Her gaze sharpened as she recognized their efforts, and without hesitation, she charged forward with unstoppable force. Feng reacted immediately. His Silver Moon spear skill lightened up the battlefield as he pushed his spear towards Yuge. Yet she stood firm, and effortlessly raised her hand that glowed with a powerful aura to block the attack. The clash sent shockwaves through the air, but she remained unfazed. She then channeled a new wave of energy. Her aura glowed with a spectrum of colors that seemed to flicker like living flames. Xuanyu demanded to know from his teammates what kind of martial soul she possessed. Huihui explained that it was the power of the 5 elements, a fearsome force created by combining 5 distinct attributes, known as the 5 elemental divine light. He warned that it could destroy all forms of energy, though she could only maintain it for 2 minutes. Hearing his words, Menqin instructed her teammates to stop Yuge. She summoned a towering statue to block her path, but Yuga's power crashed through it with ease. Menqin watched in shock as it was effortlessly destroyed. Yuga then moved towards Menqin, who quickly raised a defensive barrier. But Yuga's attack shattered it, and a brilliant burst of light exploded from her hand and struck Menqin. Shu cried out for Menqin, but Yuga, unmoved, advanced with cold resolve. She announced that there were only 20 seconds left, which is plenty of time to finish them off. With a fierce shout, she charged at them. Huihui prepared for their final stand, and Xuanyu told his team to be ready. He placed his hands on Huihui's back, one glowing with yellow light, and the other with white, as a powerful surge of energy erupted between them. Huihui's voice rang out with fierce resolve as he declared that it was their last chance. Whether they won or lost, they would give it everything they had. Strange and unimaginable powers surged into Yuan and Huihui's body, which caused him excruciating pain as if his soul were being repeatedly stabbed. A brilliant, intense energy burst forth from him, which left Yuge in shock. Huihui's form began to change as he transformed into a more mature and powerful version of himself. Xuanyu watched in amazement as he underwent this dramatic shift. A sense of dread overwhelmed Yuge as she rushed towards Huihui, determined to strike before it was too late. But as she threw her punch, Huihui extended his hand, which glowed with vivid green energy. In a rapid motion, he summoned a bow and aimed it directly at her. Her shock deepened as she realized she could not move and understood with horror that he must have awakened his martial soul a second time. Her fear intensified as Huihui's gaze locked onto hers, and suddenly an explosion erupted, which shaken the air around them. As the wind's roar faded, a voice from the crowd wondered aloud if the freak team had won, as they noted how unpredictable the battle had been. Another person expressed surprise and said they hadn't expected it, while someone else shouted in amazement at the incredible display. As the match ended, the remaining competitors were instantly transported to the waiting room, and Xuanyu approached Huihui to check on him. Huihui shivered and suddenly vanished into thin air, which left Xuanyu confused and Menqin worried, as they both wondered if he logged out. Xuanyu's mind raced, as he suspected the problem might be related to the soul martial fusion skill, a secret ability he had kept hidden. He then shouted for the system to log him out immediately. Once outside the simulation cabin, he quickly contacted his teacher to explain the situation. Xiaoqi, who had just visited Huihui's home, reassured Xuanyu that Huihui had collapsed in his simulation cabin, but everything necessary was being taken care of. He told him to stay calm as he promised to come to him soon, and advised him to prepare a detailed explanation of what had happened. Xuanyu, now in a rush, hurried out of the dorm and jumped into the teacher's car. As the car sped along the road, he anxiously asked his teacher if Huihui would be all right. Qi assured him that the school had called in experts from the inner court to treat him and that he would be fine. He then instructed Xuanyu to explain everything in detail once they arrived, and he reminded him to only speak when asked to do so. Xiaoqi's voice rose with surprise as he questioned whether Xuanyu had truly claimed victory over Tang Yuga and her team, or if it was just a story. Xuanyu responded calmly as he indicated that the truth of the matter no longer mattered. His concern then shifted to Huihui's condition as he asked about his well-being. Qi reassured Xuanyu, based on his experience, that Huihui's mutation would turn out to be beneficial. He then suggested a practical plan. Xuanyu should record a video of his match and send it to him. Xuanyu was intrigued by this and reflected on whether it was fine to do so. Qi proposed to sell the footage and promised to split the earnings fairly. Xuanyu agreed, ready to follow his teacher's advice to get the best possible price for the video. Ying Luohong's eyes moved towards Xuanyu and Qi as she took in their presents. She turned to Xuanyu and expressed her frustration over the ongoing trouble he seemed to bring, as she remarked that this was yet another instance of his troublemaking. Nearby, old Shu gently placed his hand on Huihui's head, where he rested peacefully on the bed. As he stood up, Huihui's father approached and sought information about his son's condition. Old Shu reassured him that there was no serious issue. He explained that Huihui had simply eaten too much and needed a few days of rest. He added that the boy's second awakening of his martial soul, along with the simultaneous awakening of his bloodline, suggested that his strength would continue to grow. Huihui's father wondered if this mutation indicated a complete transformation. Old Shu admitted that such cases were very rare and expressed his curiosity about this sudden change as well. He noted that Huihui's future was full of potential, even hinting at the possibility of him becoming a god. He told Huihui's father that the Yuanan family was very fortunate, and Huihui's father thanked him. Old Shu then turned to Xuanyu and asked for his name. Xuanyu addressed him as a teacher and provided his name, but then felt a strange sensation and found himself dropping to his knees. He was bewildered as his body seemed to move on its own. As he observed this, Old Shu asked him what was happening. Xuanyu replied that he didn't know what was going on. Old Shu's eyes gleamed with a bright smile as he mentioned Xuanyu's respectful address to him as a teacher and his earnest bow. The old man saw Xuanyu's genuine desire to become his disciple, which touched his heart. He reflected that since he had always trusted in divine will, he was inclined to consider Xuanyu. But Luohong interrupted them with a firm protest. She moved quickly to Xuanyu's side and insisted that he was just a first-year student in the outer court, and according to Old Shu's own rules, they must wait until his graduation before making any decisions. Old Shu calmly replied that he could still hear perfectly well, and there was no need for such commotion. He explained that there was no hurry to accept Xuanyu as a disciple, but since their meeting seemed destined, he had a gift for the young man. He then handed Xuanyu an item. As Xuanyu received it and examined it, Old Shu advised him to keep it in his meditation room during practice, and patted his head gently. A soothing warmth spread from Xuanyu's head throughout his body, which filled him with a deep sense of comfort. Old Shu then vanished from sight. As the old man was gone, Ying Luohong was very furious with his actions. She was angry about his obvious attempt to win Xuanyu's favor and decided to tell the teacher about it when she got back. Meanwhile, Yuanan Huihui's father addressed Xuanyu as a little child and introduced himself. He mentioned that he was instrumental in awakening his son's martial soul and asked for a detailed explanation of what happened. As Xuanyu explained, Luohong watched him with growing interest and recognized Xuanyu's exceptional skill in martial soul fusion. Huihui's father then told him that he should take his child away from that idiot, as it would be a waste for Huihui to stay under his present guidance. He then thanked Ying Luohong and apologized for any inconvenience caused before taking his leave. At the academy, Xuanyu's voice was filled with excitement as he mentioned that they had won and collected an impressive 960,000 Duo Luo coins. Menkin agreed, and added that they were also expecting proceeds from ticket sales, though they didn't yet know the amount. Xuanyu spoke to the members of the Freak team and mentioned that their teacher would help sell the match videos and that they would share half of the proceeds from these sales. The team would then divide this share equally. Menkin was excited by the news and happily agreed. With this addition, the Freak team's total now reached 1,020,000 Duoluo coins. In Xuanyu's hostel room, he sat cross-legged on the floor, with a box placed in front of him. As he reflected on the day's events, his thoughts were heavy. Although he had emerged victorious, he couldn't ignore the unease that lingered. The explosive attacks from the two spirit masters, one harnessing light and the other darkness, had pushed him to his limits. Without those powerful attacks, the gap in strength might have made victory impossible. Driven by his goal, he knew he must advance quickly to achieve the third ring. He imagined the benefits of reaching that level, far surpassing his current state. As he focused on this goal, a soft green glow began to shine from his hand. The warmth it emitted filled the room, a reminder of the elder's gift. Soon, the entire room was illuminated by the vibrant light, and he was surrounded by a strong wave of life energy. This energy was more intense than what he had felt at the Sea God Lake, and much more powerful than the black insignia. Xuanyu remained composed as he felt the steady flow of green energy swirling within him. Ever since he had discovered how to enhance his soul power by channeling his bloodline under the right conditions of abundant life energy, his cultivation progress had surged forward with remarkable speed. This newfound technique had accelerated his growth in ways he never imagined, and he was amazed at the effectiveness of the energy source before him. Not only did it draw in vast amounts of energy, but it also made absorbing life force almost effortless. As the soft glow of the moon bathed the night sky, Xuanyu stretched his hands after cultivating for so long. The fatigue settling into his limbs became more apparent, and he wondered quietly if the life energy he had absorbed was simply too strong. His attention shifted to the communication device clasped in his hand, just as a familiar voice rang through. It was Qian Lei who shouted Xuanyu's name from the other end. He cried that the teacher had dragged him away for training and forced him to kneel for over a day until he thought he might actually die from it. And because of this, he had missed a prime opportunity to make a fortune. Xuanyu listened patiently and reassured him that there would be other chances with better ones yet to come. With that, they agreed to meet later, and as the conversation faded, so too did the night. As the morning sun peeked through the horizon, Lei turned to Xuanyu with excitement. He told him that his spiritual power had surpassed 100 upgrade points, which is a huge step forward. At this rate, he felt it wouldn't be long before he reached the spirit sea realm. Xuanyu listened, then handed him a few insignia, and explained that the first experience tended to have the best results. He suggested that Lei should use them first. Lei accepted them gratefully, and said he'd borrow them for now. Xuanyu also suggested that when he headed to the exchange center to trade for resources, he should stop by Dean Ying's office. Doing so might just get him a discount, which could be very useful. Lei leaned in closer and asked if there was any quicker way to earn Duoluo coins. Xuanyu told him there was no shortcut. Not yet, anyway. But he planned to log in later to check if he could find another way to make some money. Lei said he was heading off for now, but would see Xuanyu later in the Duoluo world. Xuanyu nodded and turned to leave as well. As he was left alone, Xuanyu quietly resolved that next time he must work even harder to raise his soul power to level 30. Only then would he be ready to learn the art of Star War Command under his teacher's guidance. That goal burnt within him, waiting to be brought to life. After much anticipation, Xuanyu's video was finally sold, which brought in a total of 300 white insignias. As agreed, half of the earnings went to his teacher, yet even after that, everyone still ended up with more than a dozen insignias each. The moment they had been waiting for arrived, and during the exchange, each person received over 200 white insignias,